Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will teach you 20 pairs of English words you need to stop confusing today, part 5. India might have one of the largest English speaking populations in the world, but there are many word pairs which keep confusing the best of us. Making a mistake while speaking similar sounding words might not be an issue, but the problem becomes very clear when you're writing the words and trying to use them in sentences. If you clearly know how to use these confusing word pairs, you can bid goodbye to any confusion you might have while using them in speech or writing. Here are 20 pairs of English words that we often confuse along with their meanings and usage. So without any further delay, let's look at them. So the first pair is perspective and prospective. Perspective meaning point of view or panorama. Let's look at the example. That tree is out of perspective. Prospective meaning inevitable, destined or the future. Let's look at the example. You have to take a look at the nature of your prospective employer. Let's look at a second pair. Singly and singularly. Singly meaning individually or one by one. Let's look at the example. Troubles never come singly. Singularly meaning strangely and uniquely. Let's look at the example. You have singularly failed to live up to your promises. Let's look at a third pair. Regimen and regimen. Regimen meaning a prescribed way of life or diet or exercise. Let's look at the example. Whatever regimen has been prescribed should be rigorously followed. Regimen meaning to direct, command or military unit. Let's look at the example. The regiment disbanded when the war was over. Let's look at a fourth pair. Sever and sever. Sever meaning to separate or to detach. Let's look at the example. By that I mean I shall sever all connections with this person. Severe meaning grim or stern. Let's look at the example. He suffered a severe head injury. Let's look at a fifth pair. Vicious and viscous. Vicious meaning savage and cruel. Let's look at the example. She thinks she is some kind of vicious animal. Viscous meaning thick and gummy. Let's look at the example. As the liquid cools, it becomes viscous. Let's look at a sixth pair. Destroy and destruct. Destroy meaning ending the existence of something by damaging or attacking it. Let's look at the example. The entire town was destroyed in a fire. Destruct meaning mostly an unnecessary variant of destroy, usually used with a prefix. Let's look at the example. The engineers had to destruct the rocket for safety reasons. Let's look at a seventh pair. Wet and wet. Wet meaning covered or soaked with a liquid such as water. Let's look at the example. My hair is still wet. Wet meaning make something more acute or keen or to sharpen a sensation. Let's look at the example. The preview was intended to whet your appetite. Let's look at the eighth pair. Sometime and sometime. Sometime meaning a period of time. Let's look at the example. I fear that it will be some time before he is able to deal with his memories of the war. Sometime meaning at some time not specified. Let's look at the example. Give me a call sometime. Let's look at a ninth pair. Wreath and wreath. Wreath meaning a ring-shaped arrangement of flowers, etc. Let's look at the example. The bride wore a veil with a wreath of silk flowers. Wreath meaning to surround or encircle. Let's look at the example. He watched the smoke wreath into the night air. Let's look at a tenth pair. Yoke and yolk. Yolk meaning the yellow center of an egg. Let's look at the example. Add an egg yolk to make the mixture bind. Yoke meaning a wooden cross piece for harnessing a pair of oxen. Let's look at the example. Every farmer knows how to yoke the oxen together. Let's look at the 11th pair. Dew and dew. Dew meaning dew is tiny drops of water that form on the ground and other surfaces outside during the night when atmospheric vapor condenses. Let's look at the example. In the early morning, the grass was wet with dew. Dew meaning due means what is owed, especially in terms of money to one, and in terms of adjective it means expected to happen, arrive, etc. at a particular time. Let's look at the example. When is the first payment due? Let's look at a 12th pair, grate and grate. Grate meaning to rub food against a grater in order to cut it into a lot of small pieces. Let's look at the example. Add the grated carrots to the salad. Grate meaning grate large in amount, size or degree. Let's look at the example. China has the Great Wall of China. Let's look at a 13th pair, here and here. Here means to perceive with the ear the sound made by someone or something. Let's look at the example. I'm unable to hear your voice. Can you please speak aloud? Here indicates the place where you are at any moment. Let's look at the example. Welcome guys. Here you will find the appropriate content for learning new homophones. Let's look at a 14th pair, whole and whole. Whole meaning the hole is a gap or hollow place in a solid body or surface. Let's look at the example. He had a hole in his sock. Whole means entire, all of. Let's look at the example. I read the whole book in one day. Let's look at a 15th pair. Leek and leek. Leek is a long white vegetable with green leaves on top that tastes and smells like an onion. Let's look at the example. Wales is famous for its rainy weather and its giant leaks. Leak means something is escaping like liquid or gas from a hole or crack in a pipe or container. Let's look at the example. One of the employees was responsible for the leak. Let's look at a 16th pair. Sack and sack. Sack is a hollow, flexible structure resembling a bag or pouch, a cavity within an organism enclosed by a membrane and containing air, liquid or solid structures. Let's look at the example. A fountain pen with an ink sac. Sac meaning the sac is a large bag made of a strong material such as hessian, thick paper or plastic used for storing and carrying goods. It is also called a bag. Let's look at the example. Natasha uses a paper sack to store her groceries. Let's look at a 17th pair, meat and meat. Meat meaning meat is the edible flesh from an animal. Let's look at the example. Vegetarians don't eat meat. Meat means when you are introduced to a person for the first time. It can also refer to later meetings. Let's look at the example. Hey guys, let's meet today. Peace and peace. Peace means freedom from war and violence, especially when people live and work together happily without disagreements. Let's look at the example. Lord Buddha is the symbol of peace. Piece meaning a piece is a part of something. Let's look at the example. He cut the cake into 8 equal pieces. Let's look at a 19th pair. Sight and sight. Sight is the ability to see. Let's look at the example. The old lady has lost her sight. Sight meaning a site is a place where something is, was or will be built, or where something happened, is happening or will happen. Nowadays, the most common use of this word is for the website. Let's look at the example. Armed forces posted around the restricted site. Let's look at a last pair, serial and serial. Serial is a story or program delivered in parts taking place in series. Let's look at the example. The serial killer loved watching crime serials on TV. Cereal is a grain used for food, for example wheat, maize or rye. Let's look at the example. My favorite cereal is cornflakes. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this English lesson series and learned a lot. So you can continue studying with me by subscribing to my channel. Thank you for watching.